Welcome, everyone, to Music Junkies, a podcast about people sharing extraordinary stories about how music has impacted their lives.
Welcome, everyone, to Music Junkies. I'm your host, Annette Smith, and today we have a special guest, right? I love it. Demitri, right? So entrepreneur in LA, grinding it, obviously, right? Being in LA, he's a writer, podcaster, card reader, actor. Geez, the list goes on. I love it. And he just said he's a music junkie. So I love that even more. So welcome to the show. I'm excited to go over your playlist and just get to know you, which is awesome. But before we get started, I always like to ask my guests, what was your experience putting your playlist together?
Very easy.
Yeah.
So at first I started kind of like adding a bunch of songs to it kind of willy-nilly, but then I remembered you asked for things with stories. So I'm like, okay, maybe I should narrow this down a little bit more. And because I had a bunch of random songs on there, like current ones that maybe aren't necessarily story based, but I was like, all right, well, what is the story that I'm trying to tell? And I really wanted to tell a story of like how I grew up into the adult that I am here. So it's kind of chronological, but it kind of jumps around a little bit. Everything on there is like a kind of a piece of my heart, if you will.
Oh, I love it. That makes me excited. I love when people say that. And you're right. It's so hard when you are doing a playlist because I feel like you get trapped in these little rabbit holes. You're like, oh, that song leads to that, to leads to this song, to leads to this song. And then next thing you know, you're so far away gone that you got to like come back again and figure out how do you get back again, especially if music is
completely
a big part of your life like it has for me. So I'm excited.
Completely.
Are you ready for your first song?
I totally am.
Okay, yay. Right, Waterfalls, TLC. First of all, before we get started, what member were you? Who did you resonate with in the TLC group?
Oh, Left Eye. Duh.
Yeah. So how come?
She was the badass. She was the fun one. I mean, they're all fun, but yeah. I mean, and obviously, we lost her at a certain time, and I wish that she was still around truly, but I just love them. They were my first music group that I listened to, my first CD ever. A bunch of us neighborhood kids, I think it's probably like 7 or 8, a bunch of us neighborhood kids, like that was just the CD that we had, like always.
I love it. So did you dress like them? Did you have the pants?
No, I was much too young. I was much too young to wear those parachute pants.
I love it. So you've written a couple poetry books.
I have, yeah.
Right. So I want to know, how many poems have you read to somebody to seduce them and get them into
None, because I think that's a little cheesy way to do it. I mostly just write for myself. It's kind of like my own little therapy session. So I have a lot of thoughts, and this is kind of a way to put form to the thought, if you will. My first book was Bitter Blue Pill, and it actually was a lot of stuff that I had from when I was younger, from like 16 to like 20, and then I had a lot of the currenter ones from like 2016 to like 2018 that I put in there as well. And then the most recent one, All Was Nothing in the Time of Champions, that one is all like really current stuff, and I actually played with the form a little bit more, but everything on there is like is again like a little piece of my heart. Like it's stuff that goes on in my mind, like little messages that I had to tell myself in order to like get through the day, or whether it be that, or like just playing with rhyme and stuff like that. It's
do you find writing poetry like really therapeutic for you?
Yeah. I always feel like I have something like really important to say, but I don't know how to put it into words. And then this is like a way to put it into words that make sense in my brain.
Yeah. If I wrote a poetry book, it would just be like, fuck, 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 fuck. That would be my poetry book.
Oh, there's a lot of fucks in there for sure.
It's just because I don't know how to really get my emotion out either. And that's just like my go-to way to get my emotion out.
It's a great way. It's a great way.
So I know that you also do a podcast as well. So what kind of podcast do you do?
Well, it's a comedy podcast about science and spirituality that I host with my best friend called A Cosmic Journey with Demi and Jay. We basically talk about everything from like aliens to technology to Buddhism to everything, religion. It's everything in the universe. Basically.
I love it. What inspired you to go that route in your podcast?
Honestly, so my first foray into podcasting ended up being into like sex territory, which is kind of like what I write about a lot of the time in my blog and stuff and things like that. But then I ended up going into the way I was going about it was difficult, and there were some hiccups regarding that. So I'm like, you know what, this is probably not what I want to do with the podcast. So I was talking with my best friend one day, and we were talking a lot about like about manifesting. And so that's kind of like the genesis of it. We started talking about this particular thing. And then we're like, well, why don't we just like turn this into a podcast? And, you know, he came on board later on, and that was it.
The rest is history. I love it.
The rest is history.
So it just like started one way and then kind of evolved to something totally opposite, which was really cool. Love it. All right, next song. This is like one of my favorite songs. Some Chili Peppers, Californication. Why do you love it so much?
I love the Chili Peppers. They were the second album that I ever bought. My cousin Paula was actually the one that introduced me to them. And I loved Californication because it was like a darker, the album I should say is such a darker turn for the band, because the band's usually like that really like up and funky, like, you know, the stuff, but I loved the darker edge to it. And another one of my favorite songs on that album is Purple Stain. And I had no idea what that song was about because I was like 12 when I listened to it. And I realized it's about finger banging a woman while she's on her period.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. I'm gonna have to go back and listen to that song.
Go back, listen to it. Purple is not actually the color, obviously, but but you go back and you listen to it and you're like, wow, okay. So like it's definitely one of those weird, a bunch of different vibes going into the album. And Californication, the song, was my favorite ones. I grew up in California. I'm obsessed with Hollywood. I live in Hollywood currently. So it's like it's one of those things that kind of like really sparked my interest in Californication, if you will.
Yeah, I love it. So born and raised in California, have you ever moved anywhere else? Like got away just for a couple months just to check something else out?
I lived in Seattle for 6 years.
Nice.
Yeah, I liked it, but the weather was not my thing. Not
like
my
today
thing.
in Calgary, raining, right? That's all it did. Rain, rain, rain in Seattle. It's like
Pretty much, yeah.
I'm from Nanaimo, so Vancouver Island, and yes, I love the island, but I'd rather have snow than rain. Like it's just depressing.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather have neither.
Yeah, I need the sun. I'm a sun bug for sure. So of all the concerts that you've been to, what has been a concert that has really standed out to you or impacted you, or you're just sort of like, this is amazing?
Good question. Truly, I haven't been to a lot of concerts per se.
Okay.
I've been to a lot of shows. So I've been to a lot of like live events of like, you know, musicians that aren't necessarily popular, or just like live local events and like bands and stuff like that. I've been to lots of those.
What was your favorite? Do you have a favorite of all of those?
I don't remember any of those.
Is it self-induced?
Yeah, I was either drunk or on some sort of substance. But I will say I've seen Lady Gaga twice. I've seen the Yeah Yeahs once. I've seen Okay, I would say the most that stands out to me was so one of my favorite artists is, I'm not sure if I put her on this playlist or not. Florence and the Machine.
Okay.
One of my all-time favorite artists of all time. Did I put her on the playlist?
No, you didn't.
Damn, I should have.
Next time.
Next time. Yeah, but truly she's one of my favorites. I'm obsessed with her. I have her on my wall up here, but so one summer in particular, I think it was 2018, I traveled from LA to San Francisco to see her at Outside Lands. I saw her again in Hollywood at the Hollywood Bowl. And then I saw her one more time at a live taping of the James Corden show. So I literally traveled up and down California to like see her live like 3 times.
Really? That's amazing.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to do that with an artist, like just kind of be a groupie for a day.
Mm-hmm.
So out of all the artists that you know, who is an artist that you would love to sleep with?
Miguel.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How come?
Well, first of all, he's sexy. Second of all, I know I put him on the playlist because I love him. I saw him at the Hollywood Bowl here. I should close my window. Hold on. Sorry. I saw him at the Hollywood Bowl here, and while he was dancing and gyrating in one particular fashion, his pants split.
What?
Yeah. He was wearing underwear. I didn't get a good view, but honestly, his music is sexy. He is sexy. His wife is sexy. Oh my God. Nazanin Mimandi, she's gorgeous. And they're just fun. Like he's kind of a jokester, and he's also just like really like down to earth, and he's spiritual and like all the stuff that I love about a person. And I'm just obsessed. He's great.
I love it. I love it. All right. Next song. Anything But Ordinary, Avril Lavigne.
Mm-hmm. Not one of her most famous songs, but it's one of those deep cuts that really informed a lot of who I am. I was introduced to Avril Lavigne from my cousin Paula again. In fact, I think I was introduced right around the same time as the Red Hots. But you know, my cousin was definitely a musical influence on me. She was a musician herself. She used to like play guitar and like make up these little silly songs and stuff about our family. And
I love it.
Yeah, but she had a lot of really interesting music like Garbage and you know, a lot of like girl punk stuff.
Yeah.
But Avril Lavigne, this particular song, I was obsessed with this album, and I feel like I wanted nothing more in life than to be anything but ordinary. I don't want a life that could be easily replicated. I want a life that can be studied, you know?
Yeah.
And so this was like that one of those songs that just I still listen to this day, and I'm screaming in my car, like, you know, windows down, and like, I'd rather be anything but ordinary, please. You know, I love that song. It's so good.
Tell me what it was like growing up in high school for you.
Difficult.
Yeah. So what was difficult?
Well, from 6th grade to probably my sophomore year, I changed schools once a year.
Oh, wow.
So I never really got a chance to like make a lot of like friends for a long time. And also I was really bullied. Thus why I was jumping around to school, because every other school I was getting bullied at.
What were you getting bullied for?
Just being different.
Really? Eh?
Just, yeah. Even from like a young age, like I don't think I was anything like weird. I was just this scrawny, pale kid, you know?
Yeah.
And so, you know, kids just are mean, and they will find whatever weakness and exploit it.
Yeah.
And so I was bullied horribly. In fact, I think the worst of it was in the 8th grade. But once I actually moved to California, or Southern California, I should say, things started to change a little bit. The school that I had transferred to wasn't necessarily the best school. It was actually kind of traumatic to be in that school in particular, because there was riots on campus. They had gun shootings. They
Wow. So a great place to get education.
A lot of meth on campus. It was
nice.
like, it was great. But at the same time, I met some really core friends that informed a lot of my life, and people that I'm still friends with to this day. It's just, I don't know. I've had a very up and down relationship with school.
Yeah,
definitely. But
what kind of music did you listen to in high school?
A lot of punk music. A lot of, I went through like a heavy metal phase for a while too, but then of course, secretly I was listening to a lot of pop music too.
So what kind of heavy metal, what kind of punk?
Like Subhumans, The Misfits, Cannibal Corpse, Marilyn Manson, like shit like that. I don't listen to any of that music anymore. I wouldn't say it's necessarily catchy, but it was one of those things that you would listen to it just because it's not what other people listen to.
Yeah, and it's probably what you're going through too. It's just like it's anger and it's a release, and you're like, fuck everything. I just want to listen to this, and this is going to express my anger because I can express it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love it. All right, some No Doubt. Simple Kind of Life.
For a long time, I was in love. I was obsessed. Yeah, I mean, No Doubt. For a long time, they were my favorite band. And still to this day, I love them truly. I would say their last album that they put out was very bad. But everything that Gwen does, I'm obsessed with, a little fashionista herself, and informed a lot of like the fashion that I wear to this day, even in a certain extent. I haven't seen her. I saw No Doubt live once, actually. I saw No Doubt live once when they toured with Garbage and Paramore. And Simple Kind of Life. I just, that whole album is just the best breakup album you can ever possibly listen to. I actually was going through a really bad breakup at the time. My first boyfriend, I dated for a whole 2 weeks with. But I was so
long term
so destroyed afterwards. I probably listened to this song on repeat for 3 weeks.
2-week relationship, 3-week breakup. That happened.
Exactly. It's time plus 5, time and a half.
So regardless if you like Blake Shelton or Gavin Rosedale,
neither.
Who would you rather be in bed with, Blake Shelton or Gavin Rosedale?
Tony Canal.
I would go for Gavin Rosedale. I was a huge Gavin Rosedale gal.
He cheated on her.
I know he did, but if we take that aside and we just look at
with the nanny, come on, dude.
They're all cheating with the nannies.
Cheat on her with someone else, not in the home, like
Arnold Schwarzenegger. What's happening? It's too easy.
I know.
Be there when you're getting the nanny hired. No, I
know.
Beautiful.
Hire a manny.
Yeah, no doubt. That's the best thing to do for sure. What's your favorite movie?
Hedwig and the Angry Inch.
Oh,
I have a tattoo from it actually right there.
I love it. What's your nationality?
Eurotrash is what I like to call it.
Yeah.
So for a long time, this is kind of a funny story. For a long time, my mom has told me that we were Irish and Scotch Irish, all this stuff. And so we did an ancestry DNA test or whatever. I have like less than 5% Irish in me. And so we were very confused, like, what the hell? So I would say most of it is English. I have like 10% Spanish, 10% Italian. I have 1% African, which was interesting to find out. Interesting to find out. But yeah,
is it in the good place though? Is the African in the good place?
I would hope so. I would hope so.
I'll just 1%.
But I would hope so. But it's definitely it was weird because like we were very confused. We were like this doesn't make any sense. I was also told that I had Native American in me. I have no Native American in me.
Have you ever had a Native American in you?
Not to my knowledge.
All right, next song. I've never heard this song and I actually loved it. I still remember. Yeah, it's super fun, right? I love the intro. You think it's going to be like a slow song and then it's like, boom.
It just soars. Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Block Party is my favorite band of all time. Kelly Okereke is one of my favorite artists and writers. He musician, English. Okay, I'll tell you a story about Kelly Okereke. First of all, if it wasn't, I would sleep with Kelly Okereke, hands down. He is very handsome, good looking, genius musician. I saw Block Party live once also. I was dying in the front row. But it was okay. I still remember. So he's gay. He was actually kind of popular before they put out like 2 albums before this. And he had always been very coy about talking about his sexuality. I still remember was the first song that they released that he explicitly sort of talked about his sexuality. You know, he says things like, you know, we left our trousers by the canal. I kept your tie. You know, it was coy, but it was also very kind of like, oh, you're gay. And so this is kind of like the first like musician that was like becoming openly gay in public and to me, and I was just obsessed. And also he's a Black man. Also another thing, because being gay in Nigerian culture, for example, because he's Nigerian, is also very frowned upon also. Oh, no so way. It's also illegal in that country. But he immigrated to the UK. And so again, I'm obsessed with the UK. I went to the UK for the first time in 2019 with my mom. And I had this like weird fantasy about like, I'm going to find Kelly Okereke and express my love to him, and he's going to fall in love with me, and, you know, all this stuff. And that didn't happen. But on my journey, when I was wandering around, I think I heard music playing from like, you know, a while, like yards away. And I was like, let me go find where this music is playing. And I heard like this weird reggae music playing. And I wandered around and I found this courtyard that had like this big like reggae festival that had just started. And I was like, oh wow, like I, you know, wandered around, I had some food, and I listened to the music playing, because I love reggae music too, reggae and ska. But as I like left and I turned the corner, I realized that they were at the King's College. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I rounded the corner, and lo and behold, I saw on a glass, like a window, a giant applique of Kelly Okereke's face, because he went to that college. He graduated. He was an English major, and he graduated from that college. And I was like, I found you. I found him. I found him.
That's awesome. Have you ever been very open about your sexuality?
Yeah, I mean, I came out when I was 15.
So how was that coming out to your family? Were you scared? Were you nervous? Were you like, what is who I am?
I came out accidentally.
Oh.
My mom read a note that my ex-boyfriend, my first boyfriend, had wrote me. I tried to cover it up, but didn't do it very well. But I don't think it was really like that secret. It wasn't necessarily like I was hiding it or anything, but it was just kind of like, oh well, yeah, here I am.
Did your
very anticlimactic.
yeah, so it was like super accepted. You didn't kind of get any pushback from your parents or anything like that. Wasn't
Not from my mom's side. My dad's side, my grandma and I had a little blowout for a little while. But her daughter's gay, her niece is gay.
yeah.
It's from that side of the family, so it wasn't necessarily like a bad thing. We just, we rehashed it like a year later, and
That's
we're
good.
fine now.
I love it. Thanks
Yeah.
for sharing. I appreciate that. Sometimes people don't want to talk about that. And I'm always really interested in that because I want to know, not because I'm being ignorant, but because I just want to know. I think they're awesome stories and we all go through different challenges in our life. And I appreciate you sharing.
Yeah, of course.
All right. Cure. Such an interesting band, these guys.
Mm-hmm. The Cure. So again, I listened to them a lot when I was in high school. And one of my favorite books is The Perks of Being a Wallflower. And when I read that book, this song was one of like the playlists that the kid was listening to. And so I'm like, I have to hear this song because I've listened to The Cure, but I've never heard this song before. I love how slow and like kind of like drawling it is.
Yeah.
It's sleepy. It's called Lullaby, but the song itself, I found out later in life that it's not necessarily as like romantic as it seems. It's actually about being raped.
Wow. Jeez, it's pretty dark.
It's dark, yeah. But even still, I was kind of like, oh, well, I kind of like that more now because how like kind of weird and like, he romanticizes this kind of like rape scenario, which is super weird. But yeah, the Spider-Man coming into his room at night is his rapist, essentially. Kind of weird.
It is crazy. What inspires you?
Good question. I like things that are off the beaten path. I definitely like things that are darker of nature. I mean, as you can probably tell from some of the music.
No, I love it. So do I.
But honestly, I think it's anyone from like a strange point of view and any sort of artist or person that can kind of think of things in a different way is what I really like.
Oh, I love that. Do you have a type?
Yeah.
What's your type? What's your type?
Kelly Enrique.
Enrique Iglesias?
Kelly Enrique.
Oh, I thought you said Enrique Iglesias. I was like, hey, he's already it's mine.
I mean, he's fine too. He's fine too.
That is like one wood tick I would totally rub my vagina on for sure. Probably rub it right off of his face. That's how much I like it. So I know you've been an extra in some movies. What has been your best extra role, or what has been like a scene that you've been a part of that was like really, really cool?
Well, it's only been a handful of things. One was a web series that a friend of mine was doing called Hollywooded, and that was the first time I had any lines, and that was great. But honestly, I my best friend Jay Maceo, who also is my podcast host, he's a musician, and he had a music video that kind of like he wanted to do this music video really bad, and he was hiring actors off of a Craigslist to like help come and do this thing for him, who ended up just being terrible. And one of them wanted to change the whole concept of the video, then the other one wanted to or backed out the last minute. And so I was coming in from visiting my mom, who was staying in South Carolina. I had just flown in back to LA, and he had told me the night before, he goes, my actor backed out. And I was like, well, I can do it. He goes, what? I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. It's fine. I know you really want to do this, and I can do it. It's not that difficult. And so he goes, really? I'm like, yeah. And so, you know, you can actually see that video. It's called Still by Jay Maceo, J. Maceo, Maceo. It's me pretending to be his lover, and it's kind of awkward to do, but you know, but honestly, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to actually get that experience and help out a friend.
Yeah, I actually watched the video. I loved it. I thought it was awesome.
Did you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's really cool to know the backstory, because obviously you didn't spend a lot of time, right? You literally, like you just said, just then, you know, kind of the next day getting into this music video. So it's not like you spent some time together. So knowing that back end of the story is like really, really cool, because you can't tell in the video. So that's what makes it more really cool.
That bag, the bag that I'm unloading from the dryer is the bag from my plane ride. You can actually see the tag, I think, still on the bag from LAX airport.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right, some Fall Out Boy. All right. All the gin joints and all.
All the gin joints. So for a long time, I was obsessed with this guy. For a long time, I was in love. I had a really big crush on this guy, and he also loved Fall Out Boy. And we eventually kind of like hung out, but honestly, we're still friends to this day. Like he actually lives in New York, and he has a boyfriend. He's very lovely. But you know, it was one of those things that never really like kind of panned out for each of us. But so this song in particular, I was doing karaoke one day and he was there, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna sing this song because it's a song that always reminds me of him. And I had this idea that, like, you know, he'll get it. He got it. He got it. He totally got it. But he's not the kind of person that's like gonna be the seducer. He's neither gonna be the seducee. He's a very kind of like enigma type person.
Somebody you got to put a lot of work into.
Yeah. And so you know, it was one of those things where it's like, you know, I'm gonna sing this song and he's gonna get it. It's funny because he got it, but he got it in his own way. You know, it was very like one of those moments where it's kind of like, hey, you know, you did good up there, you know. Wink wink. He's like, I got what you're trying to say.
And you're like, so are we gonna do this? Like,
I know. Yeah.
Did I do well here? Is this like a point for me? What's happening?
Yeah, and I don't sing karaoke like hardly ever, but that song for sure.
So I have a question for you. I want you to tell me who you'd marry, who you'd kill, or who you'd be stuck in a house with COVID with, okay? Out of these, Stephen King, Hunter S. Thompson, or J.K. Rowling?
So what are the options?
Kill, stuck in a house with COVID with.
Oh, this is difficult. It's okay. I do love JK. I just really do not like her turf stance. That's not cool with me. Marry, kill, and stuck in a house. Okay. Yeah. I'm trying to you change this up on me, so I'm trying to get it. So Mary, okay, I'm actually reading The Gonzo Way by Hunter S. Thompson, his wife. So I'm learning a lot about Hunter S. Thompson right now, currently. That's awesome. Honestly, I think he's a fucking fun guy. So I would probably marry him.
Okay. Okay, love it.
Kill JK just because she's got too much money. Just throw her away. It's fine. I love Harry Potter though. All-time favorite book series. And then
but Stephen King would be probably pretty cool to be stuck in a house with.
He would actually, and I'd probably get a lot of like really good writing tips from him. So
you would for sure.
I'd probably become a horror writer after that.
You'd be forced to. All right, habits. Love it.
So this song's complicated for me. You know, it's one of those darker pop songs that I really resonate with. I had a lot of issues with substances in my past as well, and so especially when I was performing and I was doing drag, I used to perform this song a lot, and it was one of those songs that I didn't realize that it meant so much to me until later on, that I was like, oh, I was really going through when I was performing this song. But yeah, I used to be a heavy drinker and a lot of, like, you know, other extracurricular activities. And but this was one of those songs that I still listen to this day, and it's a great pop song, first of all. Second of all, it's like, wow, that was really like a moment in my life that I really was kind of like going through something, and I didn't realize that I was going through it until afterwards. And so this song always like represents that time in my life where I was on a stage, but also like really going through some darker mental states, and I think that song in particular really illustrates that.
Yeah. Who was your alter ego when you did drag?
Her name is Venus Lapinus. Yeah, she was a bad bitch for sure.
What color were your hair?
So she was usually blonde, but a lot of the time she was red, like a deep red. I definitely loved her red hair.
Yeah. So you drag for?
Like 5 years.
Wow.
in Seattle.
So you just performed in a club, or?
Yeah, I used to host shows actually. I hosted a show like at this bar called 500 East up there that's no longer there, and then I would host shows kind of like in, what was that place called? I forget. It was up north somewhere in the boonies. But we would, you know, it was kind of a group of us. We would always like kind of travel around together and do these shows together and all that stuff. It was really cool. Like I had a lot of fun doing it. But again, in a bar, drinking heavily.
Yeah.
A lot of mistakes were made.
Yeah, for sure. What's the craziest thing that you seen backstage while people were getting ready, or just being in that environment?
I mean, I've seen crazier things, truly. I think most of us, you know, the group that we were in, were pretty down to earth for the most part. As far as drag queens go, I would say I was probably the weird one, the crazy one. At one point I actually jumped out of a moving vehicle at a McDonald's and hopped into a lift to go to a guy's house. In full drag, of course, in full drag. Yeah, that was probably the craziest thing, and I did that.
I love it. You into any kinky things into the bedroom?
I have a little dirty drawer. Yes, I do.
I have a big dirty drawer too. I like the beginning of this song. Super fun song.
Hello, little boys, little toys. So two things. Again, I used to perform this song in drag also, but that song actually goes way before my drag career even. When I was in high school, I think the song came out, I want to say 2007. No, because I graduated 2006. So I think it was out 2005, but around 2007, I was hanging out with a group of friends and we used to go to a lot of raves. And this is that song that always got us like super pumped up to go to the rave.
Yeah.
So we would go like, you know, probably be coming up from like the Molly that we had just taken, and like, you know, like just really like jamming until we get to the venue and having a good old time.
I miss old school raves. Well, I'm a lot older than you. Old school
with the Junko jeans.
Well, like we didn't really dress, like we wore like baggy enough pants where we could dance all night. And I would never wear saran wrap around my tits to like continue to dance, because all I wanted to do was dance and do ecstasy. I didn't really care about anything. So for me to go put on, the only thing that we did every single time is we went to a hair salon to get our hair done. We wanted it like all crazy and all sticking out everywhere. That's the only part of that I ever wanted like really cool, was my hair. Other than that, I was good to go. Do you have any
pet peeves?
Yeah.
I'm really impatient. I'm working on that. So long lines are a huge pet peeve of mine. I've actually gone to grocery stores and got my groceries, and when there was too much of a long line, I would just drop my groceries and leave. I'm like, I'll come back later. I don't want to deal with that right now. I'm in too much of a rush to do anything like that. So long lines for sure. Also just people's sheer ignorance. Like, I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying that I know everything, because I clearly do not. But people who have a willful ignorance of every other thing in the world is a huge one for me.
Yeah. You and my husband would get along very well, because he does not like lines. We'll literally like open up a bar door, and if there's like 3 people standing there, he's like, fuck, we're out of here. I'm like, just see what, no, I don't want to fucking wait. So it's crazy.
I'll wait in a line if it's my favorite bar. Like if it's Precinct downtown LA, I'll wait, not a problem. Because there's usually like 5 different lines you can get into. One of them is going to be lower than the other ones. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm here. I'm not going to go anywhere else.
We're on your last song. Can you believe that? It's insane.
Oh my goodness.
Filthy Gorgeous. What a super fun song though, hey?
I know. I love Swell Sisters. Again, one of those super hyper queer bands like that I just became obsessed with like around 2005, and I was like, my mind was blown, because like just seeing such like amazing queer artists being just themselves, just being fun party. But even still, like that was like the most fun party song on that album. The rest are very kind of like mid-tempo or like folky sounding even. Take Your Mama Out, for example, it's very kind of like Beatles-esque. So you know, they have a lot of like really different types of music. I would say like this whole album, that's the one song that I think I'll just always listen to, and it's always going to be the same. But I think that just seeing such queer representation in music and seeing like actually being successful artists and musicians was so important for me, especially as a young person, to be like, hey, you can be queer and successful and be an artist. And it was so important to me to see that. And I love Jake Shears to this day. He's amazing. He's the lead singer of that band. Yeah, I love them.
I love it. So with all the adversity, everything you've kind of been through throughout your life, what are some words of wisdom that you would give somebody just kind of listen to the podcast today?
Never give up. I mean, whatever it is that you are doing, like don't water down yourself for the expectations of other people. Stay true to yourself and don't take no for an answer.
I love that. I love that. What are some things that you are doing right now? What are you doing? Any kind of projects are you doing? Let's just like promote the shit out of you right now. Tell me that you're doing.
Well, honestly, just listen to my podcast. We're about to hit our 50th episode. So that's like the biggest thing. So that's A Cosmic Journey with Demi and Jay. Find that wherever you get your podcast. Also on YouTube. We're on YouTube. And then
where can we find your books?
Oh, my website. It's a weird website named Demitri Wylde.wixsite/website. It's weird. I have to fix that sometime. But yeah, find both my books. You can find them on Amazon as well. Just look up my name on there. What else? I mean, that's pretty much it for now. I'm doing other things right now, but I'm really trying to like not rock the boat on those things just yet.
Well, we will like share all Dimitri's information, right, as we promote this podcast for a week, which is awesome. I'm excited about it. I had such a blast with you. I don't know about you. I hope you had a good time on Music Junkies, but I thought we had some great rapport, and like you're just like a breath of fresh air, right? I love that you're an open book, and it's so refreshing, especially to a complete stranger. That's what I love the most. And I just appreciate you being on the show today.
Thanks. I really enjoyed being here, and thanks for reaching out, and I had a great time.